What's Gucci YouTube? Megasonic here with another video for your sub feed. Now, I know y'all waiting for the Infinity War review, but I gotta wait until Friday morning. But anyway, let's cover JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Season 3, Part 3. Does it count as Season 3 or Season 2? Oh, anyway, remember to like and subscribe and share this video with everyone you know and love. Now let's go down and learn why stands are much better than Hamon.
Come out. It's time to go home.
So JoJo's Bizarre Adventures Part 3 Stardust Crusader is, in my opinion, one of the most popular parts of the whole entire franchise. Like, if you look anywhere, anything, if you just type in JoJo, you will see this guy. Not the first JoJo, not the second one, but this motherfucker right here. Reason why? Because Part 3 is, in my opinion, when the series was at its pinnacle. This is when the series started becoming what it's known for now, and that is crazy stand battles, really flamboyant characters, and crazy murderous animal cruelty. Jeez, Rocky, you need to stop this. Anyway, let's get down to the story. The story picks up another 50 years after Part 2, so that makes it 100 years after Part 1. We meet the next JoJo, which is Jotaro Kujo, a young 6'7", 8". Dude, this dude, you sure he's 17, right, guys? Like, is this a script? No, this is the script, right? Okay, so I'm not bugging that this dude is 17. Really? Yo. They make him that big? Anyway, Jotaro is locked himself in prison when his mother tries to get his grandfather, Joseph from Part 2, to go check this out. We found out that Jotaro has an ability called Stand. The Stand ability is sort of like the new Rip, which becomes the main focus ability for literally every part after this. Jojo is free from jail and he meets his grandfather, Joseph Joestar. Yes, the same Joseph Joestar, this guy. Joseph Joestar needs him and gathers a team of other Stand users so they can take out Dio. The reason why Dio is being revived is because, well, spoiler alert, he stole Jonathan's body at the end of Part 1. But why was that not in Part 2? Why did you ask? Since Dio now controls Jonathan's body, he gets a stand which activates everyone else's stand in the Joestar family. And stands have sort of a side effect where it kind of makes you sick, and sometimes it doesn't make you sick, kind of get the flu, kind of die, who knows. Araki always changes it every part. This side effect of having a stand affects Holly Joestar, Joseph's daughter, and Jotaro's mom, and now the group has to gather all the stand users they can and go out to search for Dio, who's all the way in Egypt. So you can consider this kind of like the worst, grandson and grandfather road trip since, I don't know, the father-son road trip in God of War. As they go through their journey, they meet different stand users and as well as their squad. The first member is Abdul, sort of a sidekick to Joseph and also a really loyal friend. This guy is the only black guy on the squad and he really doesn't get any development until halfway through the series. But hell, we love Abdul because, he's the only black guy in the squad. And since I'm black, I gotta like him. Oh my god, I wish they had better characters. Next on the list is Kakuin, a young pretty guy who I swear to god might be gay. He might be gay for the main character, but you know what? Everyone and anyone who has written fan fiction about this part has wrote those two together. And you know what? I can see this being canon. And lastly, the most badass person in the entire arc who I wish was a Joestar. The man, the great one, the almighty powerful Iggy. And oh yeah, there's Polnareff. He's not that interesting. Trust me, Polnareff is boring as. The one thing about Part 3 is that it really successfully shows the villain. Dio in this part, this time not Dio brand new, but Dio with all capitals, is in my opinion the favorite rendition of the characters. And there's like 5 if we're counting the video game. But anyway, Dio in this part is not front and center like he was in Part 1. He's constantly in the shadow while having other stand users do the hard work for him. We meet all types of people with different abilities, all through different environments. Some places in like Egypt, some places in other parts of Europe, some places on the ocean. And what's the fun about this part is the journey. We see the characters interact with each other, slowly grow as friends over this long trip to just defeat Dio. And not only that, we actually get attached to them as the audience. We love Polnareff, we love Abdul, we love Kaku, but we develop an attachment for these characters. Now, one thing I feel like a lot of people are going to start talking about is the Joestar. And Jotaro Kujo is a interesting character. Unlike his two predecessors, Joseph Joestar, who's a hyperactive knucklehead who's also extremely intelligent, to Jonathan Joestar, the pinnacle of good boys who help grandmas cross the street, Jotaro is the complete opposite of all of them. He is not as hyperactive as his grandfather, and he's definitely not as nice to old ladies or even women in general like his freaking great-grandfather.
Shut up! You're freaking annoying!
So it really adds a layer to his character to make it so different. I feel like when writing this character, they really wanted to go with someone who's completely different. And guess what? Jotaro is a fan favorite right down to his design, which is less flamboyant and more of the lines of a schoolboy delinquent, which then leaks over to other Joestars. Now, what replaces Hamon as the new ability they use to fight the villain? These new abilities called stands, or Ghost Ripple if you want to be technically and be a douche because you read the manga. Give yourself a pat on the back, loser. You know, you're proud of yourself. Anyway, stands are the fighting spirits of individuals. Only certain individuals are able to control the stands, and the stands come in many different forms. It could be a plug, it can be a giant ghost that punches the lights out of you, it could be a fire chicken, it could be literally a stand that literally changes its ability right after the character have a switch in personality. I'm not kidding, this is confusing. Like, he can control dolls, and next thing you know, it's like a water jewelry thing. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, the stands actually offer just as much as dynamic fighting as they did for Hamon. Instead of Hamon and whatever ability the vampires have, this ability now has different characters. Instead of just having only vampires be the villains, it allows more human characters, which adds more realistic and relatability to the story. It gets much deeper when you look at each design of the stand representing a tarot card. The tarot cards are something that we use in part 3, but later we figure out that, I don't know, that's not as good as having music titles. Meet B.I.G. everyone. Do I like stands over Hamon? Yeah, no, not really. Hamon has a different taste, while stands have another different taste. I don't know if that makes any sense, but generally you hear what I'm saying. And we also see is that stands are also given a ranking system, like sort of a report card to explain their abilities. If a stand has A's and everything but range, more range style stands can have a better chance of winning, even though they lack in power, which is really good and dynamic because unlike other animes who have power scaling problems, JoJo's power scaling is pretty much defined and easy to understand because some stands are stronger than other parts than others. Another problem is with the story is that we have so many villains that are introduced to us that the writer does not take time to let us understand who each villain is. It's kind of like they introduce you, one character has to fight them, the character has to figure out how to beat their ability while also using their ability, and it kind of gets weird because you don't understand who these villains are. All we know is that they were all been persuaded to work for Dio, and Dio is a charismatic man right next to all the horror anime dudes who are very charismatic, but it doesn't really feel like you connect to these villains in any sort of way. Part 4 on the other hand does this at a really great job, but you know, part 3 doesn't really do much with this, and I have to say that really hurts the story because you're giving all these villains each episode, which really does hurt the story a lot because literally halfway when they get to Egypt, it really does the same thing over again while giving them a large wave of stand users they have to fight just to get to the main villain. Just like part 1 and part 2, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure always has an outstanding animation and skilled use of colors, and this is still part of, you know, JoJo's part 3. However, animation has gotten a lot more dynamic. The reason for this is because each stand has their own abilities and they have to represent it in certain ways. Some stands don't even have the ability to punch. Some of them are just freaking globs of water, and yet they look intimidating as fuck. I don't know why, but animation still sticks the same. It still uses dynamic colors to show some weird reality change or some kind of ability, but also the fact that animation always feels fast. Also, it takes time to show you the environment around you to understand what the fight's going to be like. Now, the animation does fall flat in some parts, but not all parts. It generally sticks really close to the manga, which is much more boxy and, you know, masculine style, rather different from what we have now. I have to say the animation is one of my favorite parts of JoJo, and I'm glad we got to see that in part 3, because part 3 is known for its outrageous fights.
And this. And might as well get some of these. Oh, and this.
These look like dishes with beef.
JoJo Bizarre Adventure Part 3 Stardust Crusaders is a staple of the series. If you have not watched JoJo, I feel like this should be your first part to jump into. And if you don't like this part, then you're not going to like any of the other parts since they follow the similar formula. Now, going into it, I would have to say that the story is pretty detailed with just a simple premise of going to fight Dio, but it's not about the story, it's more about the journey, and we do see these characters develop and learn from each other. Now, when you get more into like other aspects such as the representation of stands and all the continuity errors that we have, such as people's abilities changing, it does get a little muddled, that can hurt the story for some new readers and new watchers. Now, I do believe the animation is like superb. However, the one thing the story falls flat is the villains. The mini villains, unlike Dio, are very uninteresting. There's only a few here and there that stand out as really cool villains because of their abilities alone, but some of them really lack in different parts of the personality. And also the story decides to redo everything halfway through, which can really kill you because it's 50 episodes and it should really feel like it should be 25. I would have to give JoJo Bizarre Adventure a 4 out of 5.